dive into. You said, but took the time to assess the guy in the mirror first. So what thing were you doing that contributed to a difficult moment in your career?
I think more so it was, you can't, I always put in the work. I've always chased the game. I understand that nothing happens without that ball. And again, I talk about earning my respect back in a league in a game that I've dedicated my life to, right? So, it was like going to therapy. I always said it like, if, the things weren't adding up, like something's going on, it's time to do the work. So, I gave a real look at myself, and it was one of the things I talked about this year. Like I talked to Draymond about going from, 4 straight finals, expectations to not only, go to the finals, but win NBA championship, to then going to a team that's a complete rebuild. And, you don't fully understand what you're getting yourself into, and you say you do, and you think you have this great perspective, and then you just lose. And that's really hard. So when Clay and Steph were out, Draymond had to go through that too. So we were throwing a couple things off each other. It's not easy to do. And I thought to myself, like, what am I really upset about here? We have a great young nucleus. The trading of Jared Allen was incredible. We drafted Colin Sexton. I know he got hurt, but then we didn't say, oh, we're going to have this small backcourt. We can't then go draft Darius Garland 5th. We did. And we drafted Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
It's just, the young core, the young nucleus, signed Lauri Markkanen, Karis LeVert. Like I could go through our entire lineup. We're made up to be good for a really long time. But from a leadership perspective, I'm like, okay. And I mentioned it there. Like I never had like a true veteran that, I had to fight every day in practice. The closest thing probably would have been Al Jefferson.
Okay.
But he had ACL tear
early
when I got there. So I had to learn a lot of things on my own. I got to Cleveland with likely some bad habits. Everything had kind of run through me. I didn't understand what true sacrifice meant for, again, something bigger than myself. But I thought, okay, I can apply that to this situation as well. It's not only coming off the bench. It's like being there for DG. Like that's like my little brother.
Yeah.
Finding ways to reach out and connect to JA. Getting Evan to speak, getting him to speak and to have a breakthrough season and say, hey, listen, this could be a lot of responsibility for you.
Yeah.
You're like the one.
Yeah.
Like you and DG and Jay, like that big three, like you guys are it.
Yeah.
And then
they
we all
carried
build
it very well, by the way.
And we all build around you. And we went against the grain too. I thought that was so amazing with Lowry too, like that 7-foot lineup. 3 7-footers out there, and then DG and Ice. I mean, we have, again, I forgot to even say Ice. Like you think about that 5th pick and, had a really good year. So I think it was more than anything assessing myself and saying, okay, why was I upset? Who am I really upset at? In a lot of ways, I looked at in the mirror, I'm like, I'm upset with you. And like in some cases, how you've acted and, you've been hurt. You can't really control that, but how can I better this team on the floor, off the floor, in the locker room, and just be completely honest, with myself and those relationships around me. And this was the most fun I've had this past year. It was so
and
much
honestly,
fun.
You could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole team. But
Totally.
we were like, it was like every game was, the whole crowd is into it. And let me tell you, Cleveland fans, like if you show up and you play hard, they're going to pack.
They're there.
Yeah, they're there. They're there and they're going to show up. So when we started to win games. We started to see more and more people fill the arena, Rocket Mortgage. And I think, that created a culture around us that we love being together. We pay it forward. We're the most pay it forward team, share the wealth, and we celebrate each other. Like I can remember, Phoenix, I was watching it was like an interview with Monty and CP and Devin, and they were talking about like celebrating the small wins within the season. Mm-hmm. And I actually, had a conversation with the coach of the year. Congratulations in Miami. And I'd spoken about that. I said, man, what's so cool. And I learned from you guys, and it's cool to learn new things in your 14th year. I said, you guys celebrate the little wins within the season. So it's not so monotonous. Everybody's then, they're lifting after games. Mm-hmm. They're like so together. It's like I looked at the Miami Heat. I looked at them. I looked at us and how we could apply all of that. And I feel like we developed a real culture that people would gravitate towards. Like when Karras got to the team, he's like, oh, this is like a great, and we're like, yeah, like everybody, like JB we make fun of him because he gives the same speech every time to a new player, but he's like, we really love each other here. We celebrate each other. We have complete freedom. There's no fear here. And once you get past the fear, there's freedom in that. Like just go out there, do the right thing, stick to our plan. But then outside of that, you can grow within, the team. Everybody thinks of player development as like, I have to get better for me. But it's like, how can you fit in the scope, like the player development in how can we become a championship level team?
Right.
And I think everybody understood that on our team.
Absolutely. I mean, so you're incredibly self-aware. I think that you have a very good gauge of what your ability is and all of those things, and you have a fortitude to stay like on the right track. But you're hearing all these things at this time. Did you ever have a moment that you were like, should I retire?
No.
Good.
No. I mean, like hard no. It's like hard pass. There was never a moment. And I think in some ways you have to like have a feeling of, I don't know if audacity is the right word, but you have to, again, it's that core belief system and knowing, again, who you are. Listen, I'm incredibly flawed and a work in progress. I think, some people that are less, there's levels to it. But for me, I thought to myself, this isn't it for me.
Yeah.
And I know in this league that if you're healthy, if you can shoot, if you can rebound, that's a luxury, especially being a big. So I've always been able to do that. That's not going to leave me. Those things I feel like I've put in work to where it's second nature. So, I was able to help the team and execute in a really, really great way in 22 and a half minutes a night. Like, I wish I would play more minutes, but like, again, we have those 7-footers that are out there doing work and had us in the, top 5 in pretty much every defensive category across the board. So again, that sacrifice, like I said, gives back more than it costs. And I think we were either plus 22 or 23 wins in the win column. So, and had those guys not gotten hurt, when it might've been a 50-win season.
Yeah.
So, and that all just lands back in the same place of just self-belief and not being defined by, what they say you are. So I guess, in a lot of ways thinking that, the deadlines on dreams is, there's no, dreams don't have deadlines.
They definitely
don't. It I think it added new life and excitement, not only to our organization, but selfishly me as well. And those young guys, they call me old man and grandpa. I'm like, how the hell? I'm like, how is Doe? How is Rondo? How is he not the old?
Yeah, he's not grandpa.
It's the gray hair that gets everybody. So
it's the being wise.
I'm an esteemed 33 years old. Yeah.
All right, last thing from the caption, because I just love it so much. You talk about gaining respect back.
Yeah.
But did it hurt to feel like you had lost the respect?
Oh yeah. No, as a human being, and I know I'm talking to the man in the mirror, but also like coaching staff, Kobe Altman, front office, I think my therapist, like those are conversations that I had. I had to, let that out. But I had spoken to Doug Collins actually at USA Basketball, and we had talked about that. He had actually come to me and said, this is how you get your respect back, and this is how you solidify your integrity back in the game, and you get that back. And he told me a great Michael Jordan story. It's one he's told before where, he had that string of however many double-digit games in a row. It was 800, 900 and something. I forget the number, but he landed on 8 points or whatever, and Jordan met him on the bus. He's on the Wizards, and, first seed or second seed or whatever, and said, hey, coach, you still think I can play? He's like, yeah, Michael, what are you talking about? He goes, okay. He's like, tomorrow, just, give me the ball. And so, they're staying at whatever hotel that they were staying at, I believe in Georgetown. And, Doug's walking out early in the morning and he sees Michael down there, just putting this crazy lift and crazy work, drenched in sweat, working with Tim Grover. And he's like, man, we're back to back. We got in 3 a.m. in the morning and Jordan is down there just chasing, working, just working. So he goes out that night and scores 50 points. And he's like, yeah, I told you, motherfucker.
Yeah, I can still play.
Yeah, I can still play. So that, again, I don't know if I had the bandwidth at the time because I was so in my head about my injury and not being able to feel and be myself out there on the floor, but it still hit home. And that was something that I wanted, was to get that feeling back of respect within the league. And it first started with my teammates more than anything. And I had a moment last year that was taken completely out of context, but that's neither here nor there, in Toronto that, people still brought up. And it's funny because my teammates go, man, that was so like, just from looking at it from a perspective, I didn't see it until after the game. And I'm like, oh God, this is going to be really bad.
Home by 3. Malachi on the drive.
A lot of excitement here in the neighborhood of the Raptors, right? Both the Wizards and the Bulls. And look at that. Turnover, the 3. Malachi and a 5-0 run. Ice cold. Fouled. And here's this play I was talking about. Just good hustle. What is Kevin Love doing?
He's just batting it.
My goodness.
Yeah,
that's odd.
Yeah, I think he was batting it like batting it down to.
Yeah, so explain why you say it's taken out of context.
Just because of like how things are perceived or how they look. Like, here we go, making assumptions, right? Mm-hmm. But I know how it looked. And it was funny because I was actually, the reason it happened, I was really angry at Courtney Kirkland. I just kept getting pushed into the back. If you see me, I like go to the stanchion and like trying to rip out. Like I was just having an out of body experience. And I'm like, Courtney, like, I forget who it was, like just keeps like pushing me in the back. It should be over the back call every single time. Wasn't calling it. We had lost 3 players the night before in Washington to, I've never seen this before, concussions. And Larry Nance, I think, breaks his hand or finger. And so we have 8 players or whatever it is. And we're like dying for a win. We're struggling. Guys are banged up. It's towards the end of the season. And so I smack the ball, not even thinking I'm just going to go grab it and then inbound it, goes in. Mm-hmm. And then they, of course, they, I forget who it was, but ends up, hitting a 3. And I'm just like, oh God, JB calls a timeout. I'm like, just please berate me and just go at me, please. But we go into the locker room after the game and, it's funny. DG, he's like, we good now? So I apologize. I'm like, you guys know that's not what it looked like, but that's on me. I'm supposed to be your vet. I'm supposed to be your leader, but I think I took that frustration out there and had nothing to do with them. But again, that was the context of it. Like I talked to even Dean Wade on our team. He was like laughing. He's like, that was such like a non-thing that people made it out to be something that it wasn't. But
as it goes,
I know what it looked like, and absolutely, I would have probably thought the same thing because a narrative takes on a life of its own, and that's just what it is. But. No, I think it was built out from my teammates first and getting that respect back. And, so much of relationships is communication, but also half the battle, or maybe more, is showing up. And that's what I wanted to do for them.
For sure.